Hello everyone, Sasha here, Fudo Evangelist. Very happy that you're joining me for another week's rundown of cybersecurity news, technology news from around the world. Let's get started. Number one is the breach at Quora this week. That's over 100 million users that were affected. You probably know Quora, a really popular question answering website, a lot of interaction with users, different questions. So that affects users there. I mean, the good news here is, there's no credit card information here, stuff like that. But I mean, we are talking emails, we're talking details of that sort. So this is another big tech breach. Moving on now over to Australia. And this week, actually really interesting landmark moment for the world that Australia has now passed some of the world's first really heavy encryption laws. So basically what this sets out is, and they rushed through this in Parliament, which is unusual, and how swift this action took before session and Parliament ended. So essentially what Australian law enforcement can now do, so that's the security service and police, that they can coerce and force tech companies to actually decrypt messages, decrypt information. So you're talking, various things like maybe WhatsApp or phones. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out in Australia and beyond in terms of reach and privacy. The big criticism obviously here is how does it affect privacy of users and the general safety of users. So a really interesting story to follow. Check that out as this goes on into the mainstream media. Next up, and I've told you guys this before in some of our webinars in the past and information about the skills gap, the massive cybersecurity skills gap of professionals. So this was released here by a big research organization here, and they've now upped actually the global shortage of cybersecurity professionals to about 2.9 million. We're looking at probably around 400,000 just in the United States. Most of those openings and shortfalls are coming in from California and Texas and also Florida. But it shows you that there's this massive gap, that we don't have enough cybersecurity professionals. So if you aren't already in the profession, time to get on it. There's a lot of opportunities available, but it just shows you that in the near future, with data increasing, we don't have the professionals. We're going to have some problems there in the future. This hint on that other topic we mentioned in the past about AI and machine learning and how that kind of might be a tool to help us solve some of these problems. Right, so our next story, we're going over to Europe and GDPR. I know that I've mentioned this a few times in the past, but folks, it is still an important issue, something you need to know about because, and the stats are this. The good news is that since GDPR has come into effect 6 months ago, more and more breaches are being reported. Now, as I said last few weeks, that doesn't mean that there are more attacks. It just means that people, they have the obligation to report them. So actually we're getting a bigger and fuller picture of the incidents and those responsible, and it just helps the whole process of raising awareness, of being more safe and secure. So unfortunately, the next bit of information here is that only 29% of organizations in the EU are actually GDPR compliant. Now, everyone knows about this. It's been a long time coming. There's a lot of information beforehand, before it kicked in May, but still the finding is, according to IT Governance, recently did a survey across Europe, hundreds of companies, and they've found only of those that's only 29% that are actually compliant. So still lots of work ahead, but we're moving in the right direction. And our next story is also connected to Europe, in Belgium and China actually, the eWTP. So this is an initiative that was started back in 2016 by Alibaba and Jack Ma, and actually been well received by the World Trade Organization, many leaders. It's already been operational in Asia, and now the first instance of this in Europe, first project in Belgium, just been signed between the company and the Belgian government. So what this seeks to do, this eWTP, this initiative seeks to lower barriers to global trade for small and medium-sized businesses via e-commerce, right? So we're looking at a way for SMEs and SMBs to make it easier for them with regulation, with cloud support, with delivery, logistics, you name it, technology transfer, shipping, everything, to make that easier, to make commerce easier between the two sides. So it's going to be really interesting because it's already working really well in Asia. We'll see how it goes in Europe. Obviously, lots of potential, massive demand for products from Europe and China. What does this mean for security? How is this going to affect privacy and data if it's going between companies rather than how we usually do it? So interesting thing to follow. And then last but not least, there was a clandestine, or rather a secret survey done by tech employees in the United States, by big tech players, completely anonymously. And it looks to be, unfortunately, that 39% of tech workers apparently are depressed. What does that mean? I mean, various things in terms of worker fatigue. Maybe there's a lot of pressure, a lot of deadlines. Maybe it's a very, very, very high pressure environment. And again, kind of as we said before, with the skills gap as well, not enough security staff perhaps. This is compounding with the issue. So again, perhaps something to consider. Tools in the future with AI, with machine learning, how can that help? How is it going to make our lives easier? So a lot of things to think about this week. I want to thank you again for watching. And as we always say, stay safe, guys. See you next time.